Hello, everybody. It's um, Identity Coach Michelle here, and um, I wanted to talk about operating out of your masculine energy versus your feminine energy. This is something that I know all too well. If you're a single mother, you know this all too well. I do apologize in advance for the glare. It is a little glare from my lights. Um, but as a single mother, I would like for nothing more than to operate more from my feminine energy. I do operate from my feminine energy, but it's my masculine energy that takes over more than anything. When you are in a position where you have to take on most, if not all, of the responsibilities, all of the duties, um, it causes you to operate from a place of masculinity. And when we're talking about operating from a place of masculinity, I'm not talking about, and this is not to offend anyone, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about sexuality. I'm not talking about sexual preference. Um, this is more so um, a safety mechanism as a way. This is survival. This is survival. This is safety. So, a lot of single mothers, I'm sure, can relate to being in a position where you constantly have to operate from your masculine energy. You have to play both roles sometimes. You have to play the mother and you have to play the father, um, a lot of the times. Um, you do it on your own. You do it by yourself, basically. Um, Things that normally a man would do, or a masculine energy would do, you're doing it. You are taking care of that. And like I said, for a lot of single mothers who know where I'm coming from, it's an act of survival. We don't do it because we want to. We do it because we have to. Because at the end of the day, who's going to take out the trash? Who is going to go to work? Who is going to pay the bills? Who is going to take care of the children and make sure everybody's needs are met? Who's going to handle the finances? And when it comes to things like changing a tire, who's going to change the tire? Who's going to change the oil? Who is going to, you know, not to try to make this all gender specific or make this not to try to make this like gender specific or traditional, where it's like, oh, the man is supposed to do that, the woman is supposed to do that. Um, I am talking about single mothers who operate from a place of masculinity for survival, because we have no other choice. So if you know you do not fit into this situation, if you don't fit into this category, it's not for you. This is not for you. And as a single mother, this is something that I have experienced. Um, One thing I can honestly say, though, before I even became a mother, um, I've always been independent. I've just always been independent, and I've always um, been strong-minded. I've always been very opinionated. I've always had my own mind, my own viewpoint on things, my own opinion on things. I wasn't necessarily what you would call a girly girl. I was a cross, like in between. I wouldn't necessarily say I was a tomboy either. Growing up, I did like, girly things. Um, but I wasn't somebody who had to put on a full face of makeup, hair, lashes, all of that before I walk out the door. I was kind of like the girl next door, basically. Kind of like the girl next door. Um, and one thing that I can say growing up is that I wasn't the girl who was a damsel in distress either. Even when I got into my late teens, my early 20s, I was not the girl who was a damsel in distress. I was not the girl who would pretend like I am helpless just to get male attention or just to get male assistance. I've never been that type of I've just never been that type of person. Um, And I think that kind of set the tone for how people saw me and how people, just judged me and looked at me in a way, because I just had this naturally strong demeanor about myself, just naturally independent. Um, And like I said, I believe that set the tone for how people viewed me, meaning people felt like I was okay. I'm strong. I don't need any help. I can get through it. I'm fine. Oh, she's fine. She's good. She's strong. She don't need any help. Um she can get through it. And what I did was I took on this persona as if, yeah, everything is okay. Like, yes, I was naturally independent. I still am independent. But there were times when no, it wasn't okay. But because I had been placed in that box, and because that's what people saw me as, um, I took that on. I took it on, and I followed through with it. And personally, for me, it actually became I don't want to say it became a coping mechanism, but it came a way, it became a way for me what I'm trying to find the words, y'all. I'm trying to find the words. It became a way for me to maybe cover up how I was truly feeling inside. There were moments when I really did want to be vulnerable and say, "Hey, I do need help." But see, here's the thing. Um, I did have a few of those moments actually where I allowed myself to be vulnerable, and say, "Hey, I do need help," or "No, I'm not okay." And I was not met with the results of actually getting, that help or that assistance. Um, so one of the things that I came to realize, or one of the things that I had pretty much summed up, I- it was like, okay, so the last thing I want to do is be dependent on anyone else out here anyway. I was already naturally independent, taking care of things by myself. But there are times when you come across those rough patches. There are times when you may need that extra hand. You may need that helping hand. You might need that backup sometimes. And sometimes when you reach out for help, or when you reach out for that assistance, it may not always be readily available, or you may feel overlooked, or you may not get it. And so for my case, that was kind of like me, for my case. um and so I developed this mindset, like, well, I don't need anyone but myself. I can do it by myself. I can manage on my own. It was kind of like, I don't want to be a bother to anybody. I don't want anybody talking about me. I don't want anybody making any assumptions. I don't want anybody going around saying, "Oh, she, came to ask for this and came to ask for that, and she this, that, and the third." And this is something that stemmed from my early years, not from me being in the position that I am now. Not from me being the adult that I am now. As I got into my late teens and my early 20s, it just, continued to um, develop. But not to get off, not to get too off topic. I mean, I am on topic, but I went back down memory lane just a little bit to give more, to give more of a foundation of an understanding of where I'm, of the place where I'm at now. Um, I'm gonna say this: nobody chooses to be a single mother. I mean, unless there was a preset arrangement and you went down to a sperm bank, and you already knew that this was what you wanted, and so you planned this. But other than that, no one actually, plans on being a single mother. Um, unless you had some type of situation or circumstance that, you were dealing with someone. And I'm not judging anybody, but if you were, like I said, if it was a preset arrangement, or if you was dealing with someone that was already involved with somebody else, like married or something like that, that's different. And again, I'm not judging anybody, but it's just the fact that having to operate from a place of masculinity, having to operate out of survival mode, when you really just want to be able to um really be in your feminine energy. Like, you want to be able to really be in your feminine energy. Let your hair down. Like, you really want to be able to operate from that space, but you can't. And I remember just talking to God, and I remember praying to God and just saying to God, like, God, I'm ready to step into my soft girl era. I'm ready to step into my soft feminine era where I can let my hair down. I can relax. I can know that, you know, this is taken care of, that is taken care of, and I don't have 101 things on my plate that I have to try to balance out and work out, and that I don't have to try to solve and figure out by myself. That I don't have to try to prioritize by myself, that I don't have to try to meet all these deadlines by myself. And it made me kind of like pose the question, in order for us, especially as single mothers, to really operate from our feminine energy, do we need a man? Does like and I'm not saying need a man out of desperation, because sometimes as a single mother it does get to that place where you're just sick and tired of doing it on your own. You want a man for, for love, for a genuine connection, for a genuine relationship. You want to be a complete family. And also, it wouldn't hurt to have, a man that doesn't mind saying, hey, baby, don't worry about this. I got this. Or, you know, but sometimes I think about it, and it seems like a dream. It's like something that you are reaching, but you can't touch it. You can't touch it. And I'm not gonna lie, I I I know that my single seasons have been a blessing. I haven't always felt like my single seasons have been a blessing because of the fact that I have so much to take on as a single mother. And there are times when it just gets really overwhelming and really frustrating. And, you just have that moment to yourself where you kind of cry. You get frustrated, you cry, and you know what? It's okay, because you're human. We are all human. None of us are perfect. But it's like you kind of sit back and you look over your life, and you look over your decisions, and it's really an eye opener. It's really an eye opener. And this is not me complaining about being a single mother. This is not me complaining about my children. I love my children very much. My children motivate me to keep going. Even during those darkest hours, those darkest times of my life where I feel like giving up, my children are one of my greatest, my biggest motivations. So this is not a dig at the children. This is just me coming from a place as an individual, as a single mother, you know, and I'm just in a space where I would really like to operate from my feminine energy. And like I mentioned earlier, when because see, the thing about stepping into your soft girl era, or the thing about stepping into your feminine energy, like you still have to work. You still have to work. But it's like you're at a place financially, and you're in this space where you're no longer working for your money, but your money is working for you. So, it does require hard work. It does require dedication. It does require consistency. But, going back to biblical, principles, God did create, man and woman to be together, to work together, you know, and to share the duties and the responsibilities of the household, of the children, and things like that together. um and one of the things that I really don't care for is the hate that so many single mothers get, and the backlash that so many single mothers have a tendency to get for operating out of their masculine energy, as if it was a choice, a personal choice, that a single mother wants to operate from her masculine energy, that she wants to operate from a place of survival. Okay. That she wants to have to go into protection mode all the time, when naturally that's something that the man would do, be the protector, you know um and a lot of times too, women may operate from a place of masculinity also as survival, because we don't know everybody's stories. Some people get into a place of masculine energy because they're trying, this is a safety mechanism. This is a safety mechanism. Boundaries have been crossed. Something traumatic happened. And so now your guard is up. And so now if anybody tries to come for you, you're in boom, fight mode. Not because you want to, but because you feel like that's the only way that you can protect yourself. That's the only way that you can defend yourself. And a lot of times this gets stigmatized and stereotyped as being aggressive, especially with, my Black women, and my Black community. I just got to keep it real. It gets stigmatized as being aggressive, angry, um, having an attitude, um, ghetto, and not really knowing and understanding a person's walk and what they've went through and what they've had to endure, and how they have gotten to this place. So yeah, this is another vent session. I'm just venting, you know, instead of, you know, me trying to be Iyanla right now, which I would never do that. I am Michelle, the identity coach. But, I've it's so many things that I've been through and that I'm still going through as an individual. And I just felt like it just needed to be addressed. It needed to be addressed. So if you have made it this far into my video, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. And please, let me know your thoughts and your opinions below in the comment section if you so desire. And if you vibe with my content in any way, shape, or form, please give it a thumbs up and please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, everybody, take care.